The church sanctuary was almost dark now, lit only by the dim golden glow of flickering altar candles. The last notes from the worship band had long faded. Rows of wooden pews stood empty, quiet as if they too were waiting. At the far corner of the sanctuary, Janelle sat slumped on the edge of a bench, her Bible unopened on her lap. Beside it, a prayer journal lay still, the cover worn, the pages within untouched for weeks. She hadn't been able to write anything lately. Not because she didn't want to, but because she no longer knew what to say. Outside, a light rain pattered on the stained glass windows, casting soft shadows across her face. Inside, her soul felt heavier than ever. God, where are you? She whispered aloud, her voice trembling. Why is it so quiet? Her mind began to wander through the recent days, a blur of disappointment. She remembered the moment she was let go from work, laid off due to restructuring. The manager's words had been sympathetic, but her financial fears screamed louder. Then came the silence, the weeks of unanswered job applications, the polite rejection emails, the fading hope with every passing day. Then her mom's health started to fail. Hospital visits, medications, bills, and through it all, Janelle prayed. Oh, she prayed, poured out her heart on her knees, cried in the middle of the night, held on to every promise she could remember. But the more she prayed, the quieter it got. Back in the pew, Janelle finally looked up toward the ceiling, toward heaven. "Do you even see me anymore?" she asked, her voice a whisper swallowed by the silence. "Have you moved on to better people, to more faithful ones?" It hurt to say the words aloud. She never thought her faith would falter like this. But what else could she do? What else could she say when it felt like all she had left was waiting and wondering? She wasn't angry, just empty. Tired, then a sound, the soft creak of the church's back door opening. Janelle didn't turn to look, probably one of the maintenance team coming in to lock up. But then came the sound of footsteps, slow, careful ones. She glanced sideways. It was Mrs. Elvira, the quiet, elderly woman who volunteered to clean the sanctuary every Sunday evening. Always wore floral scarves and smelled faintly of lavender. She was kind, but Janelle had never spoken to her much, just smiles in passing. But tonight, Elvira stopped halfway down the aisle and looked directly at her. Elvira hesitated as if debating whether to speak. Then she walked slowly over and sat beside Janelle without a word. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then softly, Elvira said, "I don't mean to intrude, dear, but as I walked in, I felt the Lord impress something on my heart." Janelle looked at her surprised. Elvira's eyes were calm and steady. "I don't know what you're going through," she said, "but he does, and he wants you to know this." She reached out and gently touched Janelle's hand. "Heaven hasn't forgotten about you." Those 5 words, so simple, so unexpected, broke something open in Janelle. She felt tears rise again, but this time, they came from somewhere deeper than despair. Why would you say that?" she asked shakily. Elvira smiled, her face glowing with kindness. "Because I've sat where you're sitting now. I know what it feels like when the silence gets louder than the hope. But I promise you, he's still listening, even when he's quiet." She reached into her old weathered handbag and pulled out a folded piece of paper. "This helped me once. Maybe it will help you now." Janelle took the paper, her hands trembling slightly. Elvira patted her shoulder and stood. "I'll leave you to read it," she said gently, walking away down the aisle. As the door creaked, shut behind her, Janelle slowly unfolded the paper. The handwriting was slightly shaky, like someone older had written it with care, and it read, "Even in silence, God is present. Even in waiting, He is faithful. Heaven hasn't forgotten you. You are still part of His story." Janelle stared at it, the words sinking in. Her breath caught. She read it again. Then again. That night, at home, Janelle sat in her room. The note rested on her desk, lit softly by the lamp. She stared at her prayer journal again. Then, after weeks of spiritual drought, she opened it, and she began to write. Maybe the silence wasn't rejection. Maybe it was preparation. Maybe God hasn't forgotten me. Maybe He's just been working on something I'm not ready to see yet. Tonight, I believe again. The next morning, the rain had stopped. Janelle walked to the church again. Not out of desperation, but in quiet expectancy. She didn't hear a booming voice from heaven. No miracles fell from the sky. But something had shifted. The weight had lightened. The silence no longer felt like absence. It felt like a pause. Between the verses of a song, God was still composing, and as she sat again on that same bench, a sunrise pushed through the stained glass windows. The colors washed over her, warm and vivid. She smiled. Not everything was fixed, but everything felt different because now she knew heaven hadn't forgotten her. And maybe it hasn't forgotten you either. Maybe you've been there too, sitting in silence, wondering if your prayers even matter, wondering if you've been overlooked by heaven. But listen to me. The silence of God is not the absence of God. He is working in the waiting. He is faithful in the fog. And no matter what your circumstances say, heaven hasn't forgotten you. You're still part of the story.